Core Java, RabbitMQ, PostgreSDB, then Splunk, Postman, Kibana, and Angular.
Okay. Okay. How you good in Java?
Yes, I'm good in Java.
Okay. What is JVM?
Okay, JVM is Java Virtual Machine. So if you need to run your Java code, so you need Java Virtual Machine will be installed in a system. So it will have JDK and JRE. So yeah.
What is a class loader in Java?
Okay, so when you run the Java program, the program, the class which you have written will be loaded, and so yeah, that will be the class will be loaded, and that will be your Java class loader.
Okay. What are all the memory allocations in Java?
Yes. So memory collections will be like heap memory, then stack. These are the two memory, and then we have context string pool for the string, and then yeah. So these are the.
What is the difference between heap and stack memory?
I didn't get you, ma'am.
What is the difference between heap and stack memory?
Heap and okay. So in if it in stack memory, so the like the data, like if you are using string buffer, or if you are using string buffer, so that whatever you like, if suppose in an object you have written hi Aman, so if you are changing the variable name to like hello ay xyz, so that will be like overridden, so that will be in the stack. So every time you will change, if you make a variation in your variable or something which you have stored, that will be changed. And he so and he I'm not sure about it.
Okay. How you good in collections? What are the collections? Do you know?
Yeah. So I know. So in collection, I know list, map, linked list, array list, then hash map. No, sorry, hash map is different. Hash set, linked hash set, then tree set, then yes, these are the collections I know. And in map, hash map and the tree map, linked hash map. So these are the maps, these are the collection and maps.
What is hash map?
Okay, so hash map. So in the hash map, we store, like we do, like we have a key and value pair. So the key will be unique, and the value can be anything. So in hash map we can store, there can be only one null key, but there can be multiple null values in the hash map. And
Okay.
yeah, so and hash map is not synchronized. Hash map is not thread safe. Yeah, this is hash map.
Okay. What is hash set?
Hash set. Yeah, in hash set, we can store the duplicate elements. Hash set, it does not maintain the insertion order. Then hash set, it is not synchronized. It is not thread safe. It does not contain any duplicate elements. Only one null value is allowed in hash set. You can't have multiple null values.
Okay. Do you know hashing technology? What is hashing technology?
Hash, like hash code and all.
Yes.
I'm not sure about it, but like in hashet and hashmap, based on the hash code, the key, the or the element will be stored at.
Okay. Consider a program. In that program, I'm adding an values under the array list. Okay. I'm adding some values which is added under array list. In that adding of values, there is some duplicate values also get stored in a array list variable. Okay. Now consider I'm having all the variables which I added in the array list. Now I want to get only the unique value. I don't want the duplicate values. What can I do?
Yeah. Okay. So there are two approaches to it. So first approach we can do is we can convert array list into hash and then again convert it back to array list. So this is one approach to list. So and the second approach will be we can use strings. So in what we will do in strings, we can use strings API. So we'll take the array list, the object of the array list where all the elements are stored, and then we'll array list object dot strings dot filter, then we'll filter it out, and then we'll map it, and then after mapping it, we'll use for each loop for that for printing all the unique elements.
Okay. Do you know design pattern?
I didn't get to know.
Design pattern.
Design pattern. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What are all the design patterns? Do you know?
So, design pattern, if I'm not wrong, the triangle design, right? The triangle, this.
No.
No, I'm not sure.
Singleton design pattern and functional decorator design pattern. Those things.
No.
You are not.
No.
Okay. What is final and finally block?
Yeah. So final is a keyword. It can be used with variable, class, method. If we use the final keyword with variable, then it will become constant. If we use final keyword with method, then we can't override that method. If final is used with class, then that that class cannot be that class will be final class, and then that cannot have a subclass or something like that. And then if then finally, so finally is a method which is used after the try catch block. So in try we the code which we think it can get an exception. So we'll keep that code in the try block. Then we'll have a catch block, and we'll catch all the exception for it, and after that only finally block will come. So in finally we basically write the clean up code, which can be if there is a file open, we can close that file, and even though if there is an exception, the finally block will get executed.
Okay. What will happen if an exception is thrown from a finally block? Consider you're having a try catch block. Inside that finally block, if I throw an exception, what will happen?
like I have not seen any scenario like this before, but if we are throwing exception in final block, then it should throw an exception. Like it should be termination of the program basically. The code is not terminated properly if we say it that way.
Do you know Hibernate, right?
No.
Okay. Then move on to Spring Boot. Do you know Spring Boot, right?
Yes. I have worked on Spring.
Okay. Okay. What are the advantages of Spring Boot? Why we are moving to Spring Boot? Already we have Spring MVC patterns, struts. Then why we are using Spring Boot?
Yes. Yeah. So if we compare with Spring and Spring Boot, so first thing in Spring framework, we don't have embedded servers. We need to separately set up the servers. So that is one advantage in Spring Boot. Like we have the embedded servers, which is Tomcat and Jetty. Then the second advantage of using Spring Boot is we have embedded database, in-memory database, which is S2 database. But in Spring framework, we don't find it. Then in Spring Boot, we have auto configuration, which make the development very easy. But in Spring, we have dependency injection. Then Spring, so these are the main changes. Because of that, we are going towards Spring.
Okay, how does Spring Boot works?
Okay, so so first of all, through the Spring Analyzer, we create the project. In that, we decide if we want to use Gradle or should be Gradle or Maven project. Then we decide the Spring Boot version, which version we are using. So currently we are using 2.7.2 version. Then we add the dependencies into it. So what are dependencies? Suppose if I need to create a web application project, then I will go with Spring Web dependency, Spring Starter Web dependency. If I am creating a web application, otherwise you can add multiple dependencies from there, like theme leaf. You can add Spring Data JPA dependencies, and will generate the project out of it. So how the Spring Boot project run is, it will check for the @Spring Boot application annotation, which is the main annotation, and it should have the main method as well. So that is the starting point of the Spring Boot application.
Okay. You said like there are annotations which are auto-configurable. If I want to disable something inside the main method, what can I do in Spring Boot?
Yes. So if you want to exclude some classes and all, so there's @enable auto configuration is the annotation name, and if you want to exclude some classes out of it, so we can use the exclude is equal to the class name, the path with the path of that class name. You can put it there, and then that class will be excluded. If suppose if you are using if you want to remove that class from the component scan, so if you don't while running the Spring Boot application, if you don't want that class to be scanned, then in that component scan also you can use exclude, and then you can particular class you can exclude.
The default port which we are connecting in Spring Boot is 8080, right?
Yes.
If I want to change to some other port, then what can I do?
Yes. So there is a file in Spring Boot project, which is application.properties. In that, we can write, we need to mention the property name and then the specified port, whichever you want. So the property name is server.port, and the port number you can put 8181 or 8282, depending on which port you want to hit the service.
Okay. Do you know web service?
Web service, reactive web service.
REST web service. What are the web service? Do you know?
I'm not sure about the web service.
Okay. You are not using any web service in your project? Do you aware of at rest controller? At the rate rest controller?
Yes.
Why we are using that? What is the purpose of?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we talk about the architecture of the Spring Boot, so we have a client, and then we pass a HTTPS request to the controller, and then from that controller we send it to service, and then from service to the database, to the repository, and then repository to the database. So when the client hit the URL, when the client hit the URL, then how the HTTP calls are coming to Paris using the @REST controller. So basically, it will give you the response body back. So you will have controller in Spring Boot project. In that controller, you will be mentioning if you so there can be multiple controllers in your application. So if I am talking about XYZ controller, and that how you create that controller is using, first thing you have to annotate it with REST controller. The second thing, you need to mention it has to be request mapping. So you will be providing the path, URL path, like A/B plus B/C. So that will be the starting path of the request mapping. Then, and suppose if you are moving it to, like if you are showing your endpoints to the Swagger, so then there are multiple extra tags which get included into it. So the first one is @tag. So that will describe the controller. Like suppose if it is a education controller, or if it is related to student controller, then will mention it. It's a student controller with the name and then description. So that will so first one will be the @tag. Then second comes is @API responses. So in which we have different responses, 503, 404, then 200 OK status. So this all API responses will come. Then after that we have @operation. So operation will tell you what the URL which you are hitting, the REST endpoint which for hitting that URL. So what is that used for? Basically the name of the REST point and description of that URL hit. So first, if I want to get the data roll numbers of the students, so I'll say okay, @operation name is roll number REST endpoint for student roll numbers, and the description I'll mention in that. After that, operation will put @API responses. That will be 200 OK status in that, and then we'll put if that now the thing comes if you want to use for get mapping, post mapping, or delete. Then so here we are fetching the data, so we'll go for @get mapping, or so this will be the how you create a controller.
Okay. Have you used any template engines for handling templates?
Template engine? No, ma'am. Like we have not. We have not used the template engine, but I have worked on the reporting service. So we have used Kibana for showing us the reports and all. So yeah, but we have not used template engine.
Okay. While explaining Spring Boot library, you are using Timeleaf, right? What is
that?
Where you are using that?
So Timeleaf is one of the dependency, and that is used for the UI, which comes under the UI part for showing the UI part of for the HTML part. So in our project, we have not used it in general because we were displaying the data, or we was displaying the reports on the Kibana side. But yeah, template can also be used to show the reports and UI part basically.
Yeah. In your introduction, you also speak about Splunk.
Yes.
How you are using Splunk in your project? What is the purpose of Splunk?
Yes, ma'am. So suppose if there is a defect, if there is one defect which we need to check the logs for it. So we are using Splunk for logging purpose. So we'll hit the query, Splunk query, and then we'll find out all the queries, all the logs for that particular service, depending on the environment. So we can select the environment in that Splunk query. So environment can be dev tool or perf or production environment, and then and in that we can mention the service name also, like which service you are checking for. Like it can be A service or B service, and then we can write the log message. So suppose in your while writing the Java code in the Spring Boot, so we have made so many loggers. Every time we have made some loggers, so after saving the data is saved successfully. Loggers we have created. So those logs will be shown in the Splunk. So with the help of that, we can find out. Is there any null pointer exception, or is there where the flow is stopped and which exception it is, and all the logs here. So this is why we use Splunk.
Okay. Have you used any JUnit in your project?
Yes, ma'am. So for every defect, we need to write the unit test cases, and for every API implementation, we need to write the unit test cases, and we need to test the integration testing also. So I have written the unit tests in JUnit, and then and I have done PDDs also.
Okay. Do you know microservices?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm done with my